can I be real with you for a minute? It's 2025. I think you should go buy a 200 series Land Cruiser, or an LX 570 for that matter, and I think you should be okay with high mileage. There's nothing wrong with these things, except for one thing. I'm going to show you that today. We'll get into that. This is a combustion leak detector. Now this is what I ordered off of. It's made in the USA. This block tester is basically worth its weight in gold compared to the cost you could incur if you purchase a 200 series Land Cruiser and you wind up having issues with your head gasket. That's a whole nother cost that you don't want to take on. Nobody does, for that matter. So get on Amazon, get one of these ordered. It's a block tester, and you open this up. Inside you're going to see a bulb. You're going to see this test tube. This has a conical shape in it. You can see this. This conical shape is what sits down inside of your radiator when you pull the cap off. And when you put this on the top and you pull samples off of it by squeezing, and it pulls a suction, it's going to pull air out of the radiator through this brass centered filter inside that you can see. And as it does that, it's going to have to pass through what else is in this box, and this is your test fluid. Now this test fluid is going to change colors if in fact you have CO2 coming through by way of a bad head gasket into your coolant system. On the 3UR, that will happen more than likely on the driver's side head gasket. Between cylinders number 5 and 7, there's a tiny hole between those cylinders, and if in fact this high mileage Land Cruiser you're looking at has had coolant changed per the manual at 100,000 miles, and let's say you're looking at something that's got 200,000 miles, 250, 300, it doesn't really matter. If they haven't changed the antifreeze out on that for over 100,000 miles, there is a growing chance that the coolant has turned acidic, and left to run, it will eat this portion of head gasket away on cylinders 5 and 7, away to the point where there is a crossover of combustion coming into your coolant system. So that fix is not going to be cheap on your pocketbook, but this is. Go get it. I'm gonna pull Wabi Sabi in here, and we're gonna, oh, this is fun. And we're gonna do some tests on Wabi Sabi. I have, you know what, in fact, if you own a Land Cruiser and you have coolant going missing out of your overflow bottle, it's leaking somewhere. We just don't know where. Now, there are several places this could be taking place. The radiator, for one, that'd be a cheap fix for you. 2, you could be losing it through your, the top of the motor. There is an engine valley plate that the 3UR is known to leak. In that case, shameless plug here, but you get on j2hundy.com, and I've developed a gasket for the engine valley plate, which looks alien like this. Now it's not red, I've just painted this red to highlight the problem, which you see this sealing area around here that is silver. That is 4 millimeters wide. That's insane. I don't know why Toyota did this. And then you go and seal it up with FitG and squeeze almost all of it out, and you're left with mating 2 bare aluminum surfaces with a very tiny amount of FitG, and yes, you'll be good for another 100,000 miles, right? Is it horrible that it leaks? No, it's not horrible that it leaks, but you want to fix it, you want to fix it right. Just saying, our heat exchanger, engine valley plate, whatever you want to call it, if you want to trust the fix, you will get on j2honey.com and order one of these from us. It's $40. It's worth it. Take it old school, give that 4mm surface area something to grab onto and seat and seal. Now I use some RTV and I go old school, obviously making sure that things are clean, and I put RTV on both sides of this, but that's the other place it can leak. The worst place it can leak is through this head gasket, and that's what you're gonna learn today to test for. Even if for those of you that own a Land Cruiser, this would be a good thing to go and test for if you've got coolant disappearing out of that overflow bottle and you've got no idea where it's going. At least you can't see it, whether it's the radiator or it's over on the engine valley plate. This will be a great thing for you to go and buy because it's inexpensive and great insurance, and you will know rather quickly, within 30 minutes, if your head gasket is the culprit. Now, I haven't done this on Wabi Sabi. Am I nervous going into this? I'm gonna say yes, without a doubt, just because nobody wants to have a bad head gasket on their 3UR. Now, I'm not suspecting it'll have this issue because I bought my Land Cruiser. Wabi Sabi had 160 some thousand miles on it, and I straight away changed the antifreeze out, and I've done so several times since, just flushing, and I feel like I'm sitting in a good place with that. So let's get into it. I'll get Wabi Sabi pulled in the garage. It's a little chilly out here today, but stick with it. Let's go see what we can find. At least give you some tools so that you could do this at home when you're shopping, and maybe you're trying to buy something for your kid. This is a good way to get into a high mileage 200 series or LX570 safely. Because let's think about it. Mechanically, you have the motor, the transmission, rear diff, and front diff. And if you're thinking about it, that's really all mechanically you have to worry about. That's not a lot to worry about because Toyota's done such a great job with this system and the systems that make it work. I say you get past this, your wallet can handle any other small stuff. When it comes to a high mileage 200 series or LX570, it's 2025, go buy one. It'd be kind of cool if there's some cars, music going on as the garage opens up. You see Wabi Sabi. I'm going to work off the card for the instructions because that's what you're going to be doing, and this is what you're going to be faced with when you pull that cap is system's full, and like here on Wabi Sabi, I'm halfway between full and low on this tank. So right here on Wabi Sabi's tank, I'm halfway between full and low. So I'm just going to read through this. So when an engine has combustion leak, exhaust gases that normally exit the tailpipe find their way into the cooling system for the 3UR that will be on the head gasket, more than likely on the driver's side. And basically air sampled from the cooling system is drawing through the block tester test fluid and a simple color change in the test fluid indicates whether or not exhaust gases are present. So to do this, we remove the radiator cap, check the coolant level. The coolant level must be 2 to 3 inches below the neck to prevent coolant from being drawn into the tool during test. So you might need to drain or siphon. So I would say on this, we probably need to siphon some out. Radiator cap is off, as you can see. So now that we've got that done, the next step is to go ahead and start the vehicle, and what you want essentially is the thermostat to open up at this point with the radiator cap off. Once that opens up, it's probably going to close again, but you want to allow the engine to warm up and have the thermostat opening and closing as it cycles. So I'm gonna go ahead and start Wabi Sabi up. But before I do, pull this out. So the block tester, you see this line here. This is the fluid level that you're gonna pour to, and I'm gonna do it by placing it in the top of this radiator and pouring through the top of this rubber cap. Now you can, if you want, oh boy, you can pull that off, pour it in, put your cap back on, and set it in the radiator. And then you can see here, there's the metal check valve in there, and then the other side, the metal side goes up, so you just place it in the top of this, and once you start doing the test, you're going to be squeezing this bulb, which is pushing air out of the bulb, and then this valve seals, and it will draw forcibly a suction through the radiator, and it goes through this brass sintered filter, and it's going to bubble, and you are pulling and basically doing an air sample test, and you pull that. As that air pulls through the blue fluid, it will either change color or it won't. And we're going to do this several times and take several samples over the course of time. And just saying, if this is not blue, you need to order another bottle because this probably will go bad over time once it's opened up. But as long as you keep that cap on tight, I'm assuming it'll last much longer because you're exposing it to the atmosphere, and there is some component of CO2. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. Okay. Here we go. Seal on top. The fluid level. Now, place this guy back on and seal it. Drop this guy on, and let's give it a test. Ooh. So we're sampling the air there. Each time we squeeze, we push air out of the bulb, it pulls a suction and an air sample through. So make sure this doesn't fall out to the engine bay, towards the engine, and get sucked into the fan. So before I start the motor, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off and set it aside. But just wanted to go over this. So basically, we've at a point where we're going to be drawing air from the radiator, not coolant. Okay, and how do I feel about that at the moment? I'm not sure. There's still, I think we've gotten the radiator fluid down far enough we're not going to be pulling a coolant sample through our blue fluid here, okay? And we're going to repeat this every 1 minute. If you do in the event pull some coolant into here, basically you're gonna have to discard the blue fluid in here, rinse this out, and pour in some new blue fluid, and go back, lower the level even more in your radiator, and retest. So you're just gonna have to go back to that first step in your setup, okay? So if you get basically combustion or CO2 coming through this, it's going to turn yellow. And if it turns yellow, you have a combustion leak, and you can assume safely that you've got a bad head gasket. Now, you don't know where exactly, but it's probably somewhat safe to assume it's on that driver's side. Remains blue though, or the aspirator will not draw air. A combustion leak is not occurring while test is in process, okay? So this is how you're gonna be putting it together. And this diagram clearly shows what we've got set up here on Wabi Sabi. So let's get into it. Let's let Wabi Sabi warm up. Okay. Well, we've got Wabi Sabi warming up right now. I wanted to go over this real quick because I'm noticing a few things. One, in order to avoid pulling coolant into the test tube, I think you also need to go ahead and pull the rubber hose coming there into the neck out to that overflow bottle. And then secondly, this doesn't go down inside the radiator. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to get a good seal, but I think what you're going to have to do is push, and you'll push this rubber cone down onto that, and I think you'll get a good enough seal every time pushing down, and you go to pull an air sample through the fluid using the bolt. So just a couple of tips going into this, having never done this, but I still feel like this is just a no-brainer, especially for those of you who are looking to purchase a 200 series or LX570, and the budget keeps putting you in that upper echelon of high mileage. I think this will be an invaluable tool to have in your arsenal. I mean, heck, you've got good reason to keep it out on the trail possibly too, if you decide you want to help out a fellow enthusiast running a 3UR. And of course, this isn't just for the Toyota 200 series or 3UR. This is universal. So this goes without saying. This is the same test that you can perform on any vehicle out there that you're considering a possible blown head gasket or a small head gasket leak. Go get this. I think it's really important.
All right, I'm feeling the radiator hose here at the top. I feel like it's warm here at the bottom, so it's probably passing some coolant out of the thermostat here as it warms up and the idle goes down even further. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and I'm going to press down. Obviously, like I talked about, that overflow tank, I went ahead and disconnected because you essentially are pulling a suction, and it will pull the suction through this, and you don't want to pull any fluid out of your overflow tank. So disconnect that. You can't really set it aside. Just keep this out of the fan. Just keep this out of the fan, set it aside. I'm going to thread it back under the hose here that goes down. And we're in the condition here. I feel safe. I know the radiator fan is right here rotating. I don't just be mindful of what you're doing. You obviously don't want to go look at a car and accidentally drop this, which could very well happen if it's a windy day. Just be cognizant. You don't want to drop something into a vehicle that you're doing this test on. So think a little bit ahead of time. If you've got wind, try to go inside or pull it partway into a garage. Use common sense. It is common. Think about things. No knee-jerk reactions as you do this, because there are some safety factors here. We're going to do our first test here. I'm grabbing the bulb and I'm going to press down, and we're going to do our first pull here. Okay. No color change. I'm going to feel that radiator hose without touching the fan. It's definitely warming up a little bit.
So you can see here that thermostat has come up a little bit. When it's fully warmed up, it obviously goes to the halfway point. So it's coming up.
All right. Let's pull another sample here. Still good. Now you definitely want to do this until that thermostat comes to full temperature, and continue on for just a little bit. That way you know for sure everything's warmed up on the motor and you're cycling the coolant out of the motor and into the radiator consistently. And you'll know pretty quick when this turns yellow or it stays blue, whether or not you've got an issue going into it. And if it's blue, I would say you can breathe easy that you don't have an issue with that head gasket. But that 270, 300,000 mile Land Cruiser is going to definitely need coolant replaced as soon as you get it home. Oil changes on everything, and tiny little things as you go into it. But this is your ticket to feeling 100% confident on whether or not you want to purchase that vehicle. And I think if you do this, and let's say it turns yellow, and your pocketbook would allow you to do the head gasket fix or repair or motor swap it, I think you can use this as a tool to get the price reduced significantly, obviously, based on how many man hours that's going to take and at what cost per hour. So you can go either way with it, but either way, it's a tool to help you with your pocketbook. So take the time and get out there. It's 2025. Go buy that Land Cruiser LX 570. Get out there on the trails. They're safe. You've got kids that are turning 16. Put them in a high mileage 200 series or LX 570. Their lives are worth it. Fuel mileage, everything else, tires, everything aside. The Land Cruiser is definitely something you can trust to put your kids in and come away from an accident, heaven forbid, if they're ever in one, that they're going to be safe in such an accident. So keep that in mind. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming back. If you like this, please like, subscribe, and keep an eye out here as we move forward in 2025. Thanks.